Get out of my estate. Those were the exact words I screamed, as two familiar faces I hadn't seen in 15 years stood frozen at my golden gates. The same people who left me with a nanny like trash at the curb had suddenly reappeared, not because they missed me, not because they loved me, but because they saw my face splashed across a magazine cover. The Homeless Billionaire.
Yes.
That was me. The world called me the Homeless Billionaire because they knew the glitter but never the scars. They knew the mansions, the private jets, and the empire I built, but not the nights I slept under bridges, or the days I begged strangers for scraps of food. And now here they were. My parents. The ones who had abandoned me with nothing but a teddy bear and a crying nanny when I was barely old enough to spell my name. They weren't crying now. Oh no. Their eyes were wide with greed, staring past me at the palace I now called home. "Sweetheart, we're back," my mother whispered, her voice trembling, though her hands clutched my father's arm too tightly, as if rehearsed. I laughed.
Loud.
Bitter. Cruel. The type of laugh that makes even your enemies shiver. "Sweetheart? You called me sweetheart? After 15 years? After throwing me away like a dirty shoe, you suddenly remember I exist because a magazine told you I'm worth billions." Their silence said it all. And that was the moment, standing at those gates surrounded by guards, my voice trembling with rage, that I realized revenge wasn't just going to be sweet, it was going to be deadly. Because I wasn't the same abandoned little girl anymore. I was the storm they created. And as I stood there, staring at the people who gave me life only to take away my childhood, I swore to myself, they will regret ever coming back. But what happened next? I promise you, not even I saw it coming. If you want to know how everything unfolded, the lies, the betrayals, the court cases, and the blood that was spilled, stay with me. Watch, and subscribe so you don't miss any part of this journey. My name is Isabella Hart. I was born into a family that looked perfect from the outside, but inside was filled with cracks no one could see. My father, Richard Hart, was a wealthy businessman back then, always traveling, always chasing deals. My mother, Catherine, was beautiful, sharp, and cold. I was their only child. You would think that meant I was special, but in reality it meant I was disposable. When I was 6, they left me. They said it was just a trip, but weeks turned into months. Months turned into years. The only person who stayed with me was my nanny, Grace. She wasn't rich, she wasn't powerful, but she had the one thing my parents didn't love. Grace became everything to me. She wiped my tears, packed my school lunches, and tucked me in at night. I thought she was all I needed. But then came the day everything shattered. I remember it like yesterday. I was 9 years old when I got the call. Grace had been in a terrible accident. A car crash. They said she didn't make it. My world collapsed that day. She was my only anchor, and suddenly, I was adrift in a sea of strangers. The system didn't care. Foster homes came and went. Some were kind, others cruel. I learned quickly to fight, to survive. By 15, I ran away. I lived on the streets, begging, stealing, anything to survive. I slept under bridges, in abandoned cars, and once, even in the back of a trash truck. People walked past me like I was invisible. The world forgot me. But pain has a strange way of shaping people. Every insult, every hunger pang, every night I cried myself to sleep became fuel. Fuel for something bigger. At 18, I met someone who changed everything. His name was Daniel. He was a tech genius who had once been homeless himself. We bonded over our scars, and together, we built something from nothing. An app. A simple idea that exploded into a billion-dollar empire. Suddenly, I wasn't invisible anymore.
The world wanted me.
But the world's attention is a double-edged sword. Because it wasn't long after Forbes named me the homeless billionaire that my past came knocking. My parents, the ghosts I thought I buried, came crawling back. And here's where the story gets dark. Because just when I thought I was in control, just when I thought I could humiliate them, something happened that shook my entire empire to its core. It started with a knock at my mansion's door late one night. A knock that would open up a flood of secrets I was never meant to know. The knock that changed everything. The knock came at exactly 2:37 a.m. I know the time because I had been awake, staring at the ceiling, haunted by the faces of my parents at my gate. My guards were under strict orders. Nobody in, nobody out without my approval. So, who could possibly be knocking at this hour? My heart raced as the knock came again, 3 steady bangs that echoed through the empty halls of my mansion. I threw on my silk robe and walked down the long corridor. The chandeliers cast eerie shadows on the marble floor, making me feel as though unseen eyes were watching me. "Ma'am, should we get the door?" one of the guards asked, his hand already on his gun. I shook my head.
No.
"I'll do it myself." Something in me wanted to face whatever was on the other side. When I pulled the door open, my breath caught in my throat. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't an enemy. It was my mother. Her makeup was smudged, her hair a tangled mess, her once elegant dress torn at the hem. She looked nothing like the woman who had stood tall and proud at my gates earlier that day. This woman was desperate, broken. "Isabella," she whispered, her lips trembling. "Please, you have to help me." I froze. For a moment, I thought I was dreaming. This was Catherine Hart, the ice queen who abandoned me without a second thought, standing at my door begging. "Help you." I spat, my voice sharper than a blade. "Why should I? You didn't help me when I needed you. Remember?" Tears streamed down her face as she stepped closer. "Your father. Richard, he's been arrested. They're saying he's guilty of something he didn't do. Please, you're the only one who can save him." My blood turned cold. Arrested? Richard Hart? The man who once prided himself on being untouchable? Part of me wanted to slam the door in her face and go back to bed. But another part, the curious, dangerous part, wanted to know more. What exactly did he do? I asked slowly. She glanced around nervously, lowering her voice as if the walls could betray her. They say he killed someone." The words hit me like a gunshot.
Killed. Someone.
And in that moment, I didn't know what shocked me more, that my father was accused of murder, or that my mother was standing here begging me for help as though I owed them anything. "You want me," I said carefully, "to use my money, my influence, the very power I built alone, to save the man who threw me away like garbage?" Her silence was answer enough. I stepped back, shaking my head.
No.
Not in this lifetime. And with that, I slammed the door. Or at least, I tried to. Because just as the heavy oak door was about to shut, I felt her hand press against it, her eyes wild.
Wait.
"Isabella, you don't understand. If your father goes down, they'll come for you too. You're already in danger, and you don't even know it." Her words froze me in place. "Danger?
Me?
What are you talking about?" I demanded. But before she could answer, headlights flashed across the driveway. A black SUV pulled up fast, tires screeching against the gravel. My guards rushed to block it, weapons drawn. But the vehicle didn't stop. It rammed straight through the iron gates, sending sparks flying. My mother screamed. The next few seconds were chaos. Men in black masks jumped out of the SUV, guns raised, shouting orders. My guards fired back. The sounds of bullets ricocheting filled the night air. I grabbed my mother's hand and dragged her inside, slamming the door and locking it behind us. "Who are they?" I shouted. Her eyes darted in panic. "I told you, you're in danger." Richard wasn't working alone. There are people, powerful people, who don't want the truth to come out. If they can't silence him, they'll silence you.
Silence me.
The words rang in my head like a death sentence. I had always known my past would catch up with me someday. But I never imagined it would come in the form of masked gunmen storming my mansion. Suddenly, one of the guards burst into the hallway, blood staining his uniform. "Miss Hart, we have to move. They've breached the East Wing." My mother clutched my arm, her nails digging into my skin. "Please, Isabella. I know you hate us, but if we don't run now, we're both dead." I wanted to push her away, to leave her to face the same abandonment she gave me. But survival is a strange thing. It makes enemies allies in a heartbeat. "Fine," I growled. But don't think for a second this erases what you did to me. We ran down the hallway, through secret passages only I knew about. My heart pounded as gunshots echoed closer and closer. Whoever these people were, they weren't just here for intimidation. They wanted blood. And just when I thought we had escaped, just when I thought we had found a safe corner in the mansion's underground cellar, the door slammed shut behind us. A figure stepped out of the shadows. It wasn't one of the masked men. It wasn't a stranger. It was Daniel. My Daniel. The man I had built everything with. The man I trusted more than anyone in the world. And he was holding a gun, pointed straight at me. I froze. The air in the cellar turned ice cold, though sweat slid down my spine. My mind screamed for answers, but my voice could barely form a whisper. Daniel, what are you doing? The man I once loved, the man who shared nights of hunger and dreams of freedom with me, had his finger resting gently on the trigger. His eyes, once warm and full of fire, now looked hollow. Don't move, Isabella, he said, his voice calm but firm. Don't make me do something we'll both regret. My mother clung to me, trembling, her tears soaking into my robe. I shook her off. She wasn't my concern right now. Daniel was. You've got to be joking, I said, forcing a bitter laugh. This is some kind of sick prank, right? After everything we've been through, after building an empire from scratch, you're pointing a gun at me?
His jaw tightened.
I never wanted it to come to this. Then don't, I snapped, taking a cautious step forward. Put the gun down, Daniel. You're scaring me. He flinched, as though my fear hit him harder than a bullet ever could. But he didn't lower the weapon. You don't understand, Isabella, he said. It's not about us anymore. This goes way beyond you and me. My pulse pounded in my ears. Then explain it to me.
Who are those men?
Why is my father in jail? Why are you pointing a gun at me instead of protecting me? For a moment, silence. Then he whispered, because your father isn't the only killer in this family. The words sliced through me like a blade. My father, a killer. And now Daniel was saying there was more. What do you mean? I asked, my voice barely audible. His eyes flicked to my mother, who was sobbing uncontrollably in the corner. Ask her. My stomach twisted. I turned to Catherine, rage boiling inside me. What is he talking about? She shook her head violently, her hair whipping across her face. Don't listen to him. He's lying. But Daniel's voice was steady. Am I? Tell her the truth, Catherine. Tell her about the night 15 years ago. Tell her why you really abandoned her. I felt the room spin. My abandonment wasn't just neglect. It wasn't just selfishness. There was something more. I grabbed my mother by the shoulders, shaking her. Tell me. Her lips trembled. Her eyes darted toward the gun still pointed at me. Then, finally, the dam broke. Your father, she sobbed. He didn't abandon you because he didn't love you. He abandoned you because he killed someone that night. A powerful man. And I helped him cover it up. We left you with Grace because we couldn't risk you being dragged into it. The police were closing in. We thought if we cut you off, they'd never connect you to us. I stumbled back, my hands trembling. My mind replayed every memory of that night they left me with Grace. Their cold goodbye. My tears. Their silence. And now the truth, murder. Daniel lowered the gun slightly, his voice cutting through the heavy silence. And the man your father killed was my brother. The world stopped. My knees nearly gave way. I grabbed the wall for balance. My throat went dry, my chest heaving for air. Your brother? I whispered. Daniel's eyes burned with fury and grief.
Yes.
My older brother, Michael. The only family I had left. Your father murdered him, and your mother helped cover it up. And you, his voice cracked, you became my only way to get close enough to destroy them both. The betrayal hit harder than any bullet ever could. All this time, the love, the partnership, the dreams we built together. Was it all a lie? Tears blurred my vision, but I refused to let them fall. So what was I, Daniel? A project? A pawn in your little revenge game? His voice softened, his hand shaking around the gun.
No.
That's what makes this so damn complicated. I loved you, Isabella. I still love you. I didn't plan on it, but I can't deny it. And now I'm torn between my love for you and my promise to avenge my brother. My chest tightened with rage and heartbreak. I wanted to scream, to collapse, to tear the truth out of both of them. Instead, I forced myself to stay calm. You've been lying to me for years, I said coldly. But guess what, Daniel? You're not the only one who can play this game. Before he could react, I lunged. My hand slammed against his wrist, twisting the gun just enough for the shot to fire into the ceiling. My mother shrieked. I kicked Daniel's knee and shoved him back, grabbing the weapon from his grip. Now the gun was in my hand. My finger hovered over the trigger, my heart racing, my eyes locked on the man who had broken me in the cruelest way possible. I should kill you right now, I hissed. For lying to me.
For using me.
For making me believe in us. His eyes met mine, full of torment. Do it, then.
Kill me.
But know this. You'll never escape your father's sins. And the people coming after you, they won't stop until you're buried next to him. The cellar door suddenly burst open. One of the masked gunmen stood there, pointing his rifle straight at me. I whipped the gun toward him and fired. The bullet hit his shoulder, and he crashed to the ground. But more footsteps thundered behind him. Dozens of them. We were trapped. I turned to Daniel, fury and fear colliding inside me. If you want me alive, you'd better decide right now whose side you're on. His chest rose and fell, his eyes torn between vengeance and love. For one horrifying moment, I thought he would leave me to die. But then he stepped in front of me, facing the oncoming attackers with his arms raised, shouting, "She's mine. If you want her, you'll have to kill me first." And just as the words left his mouth, a single deafening shot rang out. Daniel collapsed to the floor, blood spreading across his chest. Daniel. The scream ripped from my throat before I could stop it. His body crumpled to the cold cellar floor, blood pouring from his chest like a river of betrayal and love mixed together. For a moment, everything slowed. The gunfire outside, my mother's sobs, even the pounding of my own heart. I dropped to my knees beside him, my hands pressing desperately against the wound. Blood stained my fingers, hot and slick, refusing to stop no matter how hard I pressed. His eyes fluttered open. "Isabella, don't you dare leave me," I snapped, tears finally breaking free. "Don't you dare after everything you've put me through." A faint smile curved his lips, even as his breathing grew shallow. I told myself I'd destroy you, but instead, I destroyed myself. "Shut up," I whispered fiercely, shaking my head. "You're not dying here. Not like this. Not in front of me." But the masked gunmen were closing in. Their boots thundered against the cellar floor as more of them swarmed inside. I lifted the gun still clutched in my hand and fired wildly, each shot echoing like thunder.
2 went down.
A third staggered, clutching his leg. But there were too many. "Isabella, run." Daniel gasped, coughing blood. "Save yourself." "I'm not leaving you," I shouted, firing again until the clip clicked empty. My mother clung to the shadows, her screams piercing my ears. She wasn't fighting. She wasn't helping. She was just useless. The gunmen fanned out, circling us like wolves. One of them barked an order I couldn't understand, and 2 advanced, grabbing me by the arms. I kicked, screamed, clawed, but their grip was like iron. "Let me go." I roared, thrashing against them. Daniel tried to lift his arm, tried to reach for me, but his strength was gone. His lips moved weakly, forming words I couldn't hear. And then they dragged him away. I fought harder, but a rifle butt slammed into my stomach, knocking the air out of me. I fell to my knees, choking, my vision blurring. "No!" I screamed, crawling across the blood-stained floor. "Daniel." The last thing I saw was his lifeless eyes staring back at me as they pulled him into the darkness. And then blackness. When I woke up, I was no longer in my mansion. The marble floors, the chandeliers, the golden gates, they were gone. Instead, I was in a concrete room with no windows, a single flickering bulb above me, and chains digging into my wrists. I tried to move. The chains rattled. My chest ached. My clothes were torn, my hair matted with dried blood. Panic clawed at me. Where was I? Where was Daniel? Where was my mother? The door creaked open. A man walked in. Not masked. Not a stranger. It was my father. "Hello, Isabella," Richard Hart said, his voice smooth, almost casual, as if we were meeting in some fancy restaurant instead of a prison-like cell. My mouth went dry. "You," I whispered. "You're supposed to be in jail." He chuckled. "Oh, sweetheart. Jail is for people who get caught. I only stayed there long enough to send a message." Rage surged through me. A message. "You abandoned me for 15 years. You killed Daniel's brother. You let me rot in the streets while you lived like a king. And now you stand here acting like nothing happened." His expression didn't change. If anything, he looked amused. Temper, he said coolly. "You have your mother's fire. But what you don't realize, Isabella, is that everything was always part of a larger plan." My stomach twisted. "What plan?" He leaned down, his eyes narrowing. "The plan where you were never supposed to survive." The words slammed into me like a hammer. What do you mean?" He smiled faintly. "We left you with Grace because you were a liability. You weren't supposed to grow up. You weren't supposed to fight back. You were supposed to disappear." The room spun. My heart raced so fast I thought it would explode. My own father had wanted me dead. "You're lying," I whispered, shaking my head. "Grace loved me. She wouldn't have let you." "Grace," he interrupted sharply, "was paid. Paid to make sure you didn't last long. But she got soft. Too soft. She chose you over us. That's why she had to die." The breath caught in my throat. Grace's accident. The crash. The only person who had ever loved me. It wasn't an accident. My father killed her. "No," I sobbed, shaking my head violently. No. "Yes," he said, his voice like venom. "And now, history repeats itself. You've grown too strong. Too powerful. But don't worry, sweetheart. This time, I'll make sure you don't escape." He turned toward the door, signaling to someone outside. Heavy footsteps echoed. The door swung wider. 2 more men stepped in, dragging something between them. I gasped. It was my mother. Her face was swollen, bruised. Her hands bound. She looked at me with wide, terrified eyes. "Isabella," she croaked. "Please help me." And that was when my father's cold voice rang through the room. "You have one choice. Either you kill her, right here, right now, or I'll kill you both." The gun slid across the floor, stopping at my feet. And the room fell silent. The gun lay at my feet like a venomous snake, daring me to pick it up. My wrists trembled against the chains, my chest heaved, my mind screamed for a way out. Kill her or die. Those were the words echoing in my father's cold voice. Catherine, my mother, the woman who abandoned me, the woman who helped cover up a murder, looked at me now with desperate eyes, her face streaked with blood and tears. "Isabella, please," she whispered hoarsely. "Don't do this. Don't listen to him." I stared at the gun. My thoughts were spiraling. My father had killed Grace. My father had destroyed Daniel's family. My father had orchestrated every pain in my life. And now he wanted me to become just like him. "Why?" I rasped, my voice breaking. "Why me? Why are you doing this?" Richard Hart smirked, folding his hands behind his back, as though he were teaching me a lesson in school. "Because weakness disgusts me," he said simply. "And you, my daughter, have been nothing but a thorn in my side. But maybe, just maybe, if you can prove yourself capable of spilling blood, I'll let you live. Perhaps you'll finally deserve the Hart name." My stomach churned with nausea. This wasn't a father. This was a monster wearing the skin of a man. Catherine shook her head violently, sobbing. "Isabella, don't. Please, sweetheart. I made mistakes, yes, but I loved you in my own way. I thought I was protecting you when we left you with Grace." "Protecting me?" I screamed, my voice echoing off the cold walls. You call abandonment protection? You call covering for a murderer protection? Tears blurred my vision. Rage burned inside me, but so did something else, fear. Because deep down, I didn't know what terrified me more, the thought of pulling the trigger or the thought that a part of me wanted to. Richard leaned closer, his voice dripping with venom.
Tick-tock, Isabella.
If you can't decide, I'll decide for you. And trust me, my bullet won't be as merciful. The chains rattled as I bent down slowly, my fingers brushing against the cold steel of the gun. My hands shook so violently, I thought I'd drop it. I lifted it, the weight pulling me down like guilt itself. My mother sobbed harder, crawling toward me on her knees, her wrists bound. Please, I know I failed you, but don't let him win. Don't let him turn you into him. For one terrifying moment, I saw it. I saw myself pulling the trigger. I saw my mother's blood staining the floor. I saw my father's cruel smile of approval. And I realized something. If I killed her, I wouldn't just lose my mother. I'd lose myself. My grip tightened around the gun. My breath came in sharp, painful gasps. I raised it, aimed it straight, but not at her. At him. The sound tore through the air. Bang. The bullet flew across the room, grazing Richard's arm. He staggered back with a roar, clutching his wound, his eyes blazing with fury. You dare, he bellowed, his voice thunderous. I didn't hesitate. I aimed again, but before I could fire, the door behind him burst open. Another figure stepped inside. My heart stopped. It was Daniel.
Alive.
His shirt was bloodied, his face pale, but his eyes were burning with fire. He staggered into the room, holding his side where the bullet had hit him, but in his other hand was a gun aimed squarely at Richard. You've taken enough from me, Daniel growled, his voice hoarse but strong. It ends tonight. My father laughed, dark and bitter, even as blood dripped down his arm. You think you can stop me, boy? You couldn't even protect your own brother. Daniel's jaw tightened. His hand steadied on the trigger. Maybe not then, but I can protect her now. Time seemed to freeze. 3 guns. 3 hearts beating like war drums.
Me.
Daniel. My father. And in that frozen silence, Catherine screamed. Because just as Daniel fired, Richard lunged forward, dragging her in front of him. The bullet hit her. Blood exploded across the room. My mother collapsed into my father's arms, her body limp, her eyes wide with shock. No! I screamed, my voice tearing from my chest. Richard didn't even flinch. He shoved her lifeless body aside like trash, his smile twisted and cruel. Pathetic until the end. Daniel fired again, but Richard dove behind the fallen body, the bullet shattering the wall. Chaos erupted. I scrambled to my mother's side, cradling her head in my lap. Her breath was shallow, blood bubbling from her lips. She looked at me, her eyes filled with sorrow. Isabella, I'm sorry. Her hand gripped mine weakly, trembling. Don't become him. Her eyes fluttered shut. And just like that, Catherine Hart, my mother, was gone. I screamed so loud it felt like my throat would tear. My grief was fire, my rage a hurricane. I looked up, my eyes locking on Richard. And in that moment, I didn't just want revenge. I wanted his blood. But before I could move, before I could fire, before I could even breathe, the walls shook. A deafening blast tore through the room. The entire building exploded into chaos. The explosion ripped through the walls like thunder, splitting the earth in half. Flames roared, smoke billowed, and the floor shook violently beneath me. I was thrown across the room, crashing against the concrete, my ears ringing so loudly I thought I'd gone deaf. I tasted blood. My vision blurred. The air was thick with dust and fire, choking every breath. Somewhere in the chaos, I heard Daniel shouting my name. Isabella. I tried to move, but my legs felt like lead. My mother's lifeless body lay crumpled just a few feet away, already swallowed by falling debris. The sight burned into me like acid. I wanted to scream, to hold her again, but the flames were spreading too fast. A shadow loomed through the smoke. For a horrifying second, I thought it was my father. But then Daniel emerged, limping, his arm bleeding, his face blackened with soot. He grabbed me under the arms, yanking me up with strength I didn't know he still had. "Come on," he coughed, dragging me toward the crumbling doorway. "We have to get out before the whole building collapses." But just as we stumbled into the hallway, a gunshot rang out. The bullet ricocheted off the wall, narrowly missing us. Through the smoke, another figure appeared. Richard Hart. He was alive. Alive and smiling, blood dripping down his face, eyes glowing with madness. "You think you can escape me?" he roared over the chaos. "You think you can destroy Richard Hart? I am destruction." Daniel shoved me behind him, aiming his gun with shaking hands. "Stay back, Richard. I swear I'll kill you this time." Richard laughed, a deep, sickening laugh that echoed through the flames. He raised his own weapon, the firelight reflecting off its steel. The two men faced each other like predators, both bleeding, both broken, both unwilling to fall. I wanted to scream, to beg them to stop, but the words wouldn't come. My throat was raw, my body frozen. And then, bang. One shot.
Two.
The sound was deafening. I didn't know who fired first. I didn't know who was hit. All I knew was that Daniel collapsed to the ground, his gun clattering from his hand, blood gushing from his chest once more. "No!" I screamed, dropping to my knees beside him. He coughed, his eyes struggling to stay open. I told you. I'd protect you." His hand weakly brushed against mine before falling limp. His eyes fluttered shut. Tears blinded me. My heart shattered into pieces I knew could never be put back together. But before I could even grieve, a boot pressed down on my shoulder, shoving me to the ground. Richard stood over me, towering like a demon, his gun aimed straight at my head. "You should have chosen me, Isabella," he snarled. "But you were too weak, too emotional, just like your mother. And now, you'll die like her." The gun pressed against my forehead. My entire body shook, my breath ragged, my hands still slick with Daniel's blood. This was it. After all the pain, all the fighting, all the nights of hunger and years of abandonment, this was how it would end. At the hands of the man who gave me life only to destroy it. I closed my eyes, whispering to myself, "Grace, Mom, Daniel, I'm sorry."
Click.
But the bullet never came. Instead, I heard a deafening crack, the sound of wood splintering. My eyes shot open just in time to see a figure slam a steel rod into the back of Richard's head. He stumbled forward, dropping his gun, roaring in fury. And behind him, standing tall, her eyes wild with fire, was Grace. My nanny, the woman I thought was dead.
Alive.
"Get away from her," she screamed, swinging the rod again, this time connecting with Richard's jaw. Blood sprayed as he staggered back, howling like a wounded animal. My heart nearly stopped. "Grace," I whispered, barely believing my own eyes. But you." Her eyes locked on mine, fierce and unyielding. "I told you I'd never leave you, Isabella. Not then.
Not now.
Not ever." Before I could even process what was happening, Richard recovered, rage twisting his face. He grabbed the rod mid-swing, yanking it out of Grace's hands and shoving her to the ground. "You should have stayed dead," he bellowed. He raised the rod high, ready to crush her skull. I dove for the gun on the ground, my fingers closing around the cold metal. My heart thundered in my chest as I raised it, my hands steady this time. "Dad," I screamed. He turned, his eyes meeting mine. For the first time, I saw something flicker there, not rage, not cruelty, but fear.
Bang.
The shot rang out, echoing through the burning ruins. Richard staggered back, his eyes wide with shock. Blood bloomed across his chest. He dropped the rod. He fell to his knees. And then he smiled. "You really are my daughter," he whispered, before collapsing onto the floor, motionless. I stood there trembling, the gun still smoking in my hands, Daniel's blood on my clothes, my mother's body behind me, my father's corpse at my feet. And Grace alive. The flames roared higher. The walls groaned, ready to collapse. Grace grabbed my arm. We have to go.
Now.
But as she pulled me toward the exit, I glanced back at Daniel. His body was still. Too still. No. I choked, digging my heels into the floor. I can't leave him. Grace's grip tightened. If you stay, you die with him. And that's not what he would want. Tears blurred my vision as the ceiling began to cave. The sound of concrete cracking was deafening. I was torn in two between the love I was losing and the life I still had to live. And then, the entire building collapsed around us. The world went black. The deafening roar of concrete and steel crashing down swallowed every sound, every scream, every memory. Dust filled my lungs, choking me as the building collapsed into itself. For a moment, I thought this was it, that death had finally claimed me. But then, silence. Not complete silence, but the muffled, eerie quiet of being buried alive. I coughed violently, my chest burning. My hands clawed through the rubble until I felt air against my fingertips. Light pierced the darkness, and I dragged myself out of the debris, gasping, my body trembling from exhaustion. Grace. I shouted, my voice hoarse. Grace, where are you? A faint groan answered me. My heart leapt. I scrambled toward the sound, ripping away broken beams and jagged concrete until I uncovered her. Grace lay pinned beneath a slab of stone, her face pale but alive. Her eyes met mine, and she managed the faintest smile. Told you, I'd never leave. Tears streamed down my face as I tried to lift the slab, my arms screaming in pain. Hold on, Grace. I'll get you out. I swear I'll get you out. But it was too heavy. My body was too broken. And all around us, the ruins still groaned, threatening to collapse further. Listen to me, Grace whispered, her voice weak but steady. You have to go. You can't save me this time. No. I shook my head furiously, refusing to hear it. I already lost Mom. I lost Daniel. I can't lose you too. Her hand found mine, squeezing gently despite her injuries. Isabella, you're stronger than all of us. That's why I stayed. To see you survive. To see you win. I sobbed, clutching her hand. Please don't make me leave you. She coughed, blood on her lips. I'll always be with you. In here. She tapped weakly against my chest. But you have to walk away now before it's too late. The sound of sirens wailed in the distance. Rescue crews. Maybe there was hope. But before I could call for them, I heard something that froze my blood. A voice. Weak, ragged, but undeniably familiar. Isabella. I spun around, my breath catching in my throat. Out of the dust and shadows, a figure staggered forward. Clothes torn, face bloodied. It was Richard. My father. Somehow, impossibly, he was still alive. One hand clutched his chest, crimson soaking through his shirt where I had shot him. His other hand dragged against the wall for balance, his eyes blazing with a fire that refused to die. You thought you killed me, he rasped, each word drenched in venom. But I'm not finished, not until you belong to me. Grace's grip on my hand tightened. Run, she whispered urgently. Run now. But I was frozen, caught between rage and terror. Richard's eyes locked on me, his bloody smile curving into something monstrous. And then he raised a gun. Not the one he had before. A smaller, concealed weapon, hidden even in his ruined state. His arm trembled, but his aim was steady. At me. At Grace. At both of us. The sirens grew louder. The ruins trembled. My heartbeat thundered in my chest. And in that moment I knew either he would end me here, or I would have to finish what I started. Forever. The gun glinted in the faint light, steady in Richard's trembling hand. Grace's broken voice whispered again. Run, Isabella. But I couldn't. My legs refused to move. My father's bloodshot eyes bored into mine, carrying all the rage, pride, and twisted love of a man who believed he owned me. You think you escaped me, Richard croaked, coughing violently. 15 years, and you still can't forget me. You're mine, Isabella. Everything you are, your blood, your power, Even your revenge. It belongs to me. The gun lifted higher. I felt Grace's hand slipping from mine. She didn't have minutes left, only seconds. And, in that moment, I made my choice. I lunged at Richard. The gun fired. Once, twice. The blasts tore through the air, deafening me, dust exploding where the bullet struck. Pain seared across my arm, but I didn't stop. I slammed into him, tackling him into the rubble. His body was weaker than before, his movements sluggish, but the madness in his eyes burned like fire. We wrestled, the gun twisting between us, the barrel swinging wildly toward me, toward him, toward everything. He grinned through bloodied teeth. If I die, you die with me. And then another shot rang out. For a heartbeat, silence fell. Richard's eyes widened, his grip loosening. Slowly, he looked down at the hole in his chest, blood blooming darker and whiter. His lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. His body slumped against me, heavy and lifeless. I shoved him off, my chest heaving, my ears ringing. The gun had gone off, but not in his hand. It was in mine. My hands shook violently, the weapon clattering against the concrete as I dropped it. Richard, my father, was finally dead. Tears blurred my vision. Relief and grief collided inside me, leaving me trembling, hollow, broken. Then I heard it, Grace's shallow, ragged breath. I crawled to her side, taking her hand once more. Her eyes fluttered open weakly. You did it. My tears fell onto her face. Stay with me, Grace. Please. Just hold on a little longer. The rescuers are coming. She smiled faintly, her lips trembling. You're free now, Isabella. Don't waste it. And before I could beg her again, her grip went slack. Her chest rose one last time, and then it didn't. No. My scream tore through the ruins, echoing against the broken walls. No, no, no. I shook her, pleaded with her, but she was gone. The sirens arrived. Rescue workers pulled me from the wreckage, their voices a blur. Flashing lights, shouts, and stretchers filled the night. Cameras swarmed as they carried me out, Richard's corpse left behind in the ruins of his empire. The world called me the girl who survived. The press named me the homeless billionaire. But none of them knew the truth. They didn't know about the nights I cried myself to sleep in the nanny's arms. They didn't know about the betrayals, the scars, the blood I carried on my hands. They didn't know that freedom came at the cost of everyone I loved. And as I stood there, wrapped in a blanket, cameras flashing in my face, I realized something chilling. The story wasn't over. Because revenge doesn't end with death. It lives on. In whispers. In shadows. In the blood that ties us to those we hate the most. And though Richard was gone, his voice still echoed inside me. You're mine, Isabella. You'll always be mine. The world cheered for my survival. But inside, I knew the truth. I hadn't just killed my father. I had become him. If you love the story, make sure you like, share, and subscribe for more gripping revenge tales like this one.